Seth, why don't we discuss it? This is the future of 40k. I know
All right.
stuff, so you're gonna have to lead because I can't misspeak.
So we right now in ninth edition, we know we have at least one more new faction coming in the
Yes.
form of Leagues of Voltan.
Yes.
So the question is, and it's a tech priest.
I figured if Kicker can't say anything, I'll just come in and say things. I don't know. Maybe we can get this information out of him. Maybe we can pull it out.
Use your coffee cup. Use your coffee cup.
But guys, no, please don't. We do know that there is a new faction on the way, the Leagues of Voltan. They're the rebooted squats for those of you that have been living under a rock, or two rocks as the lead of Voltan HQ tends to stand on. What do we think? Yeah, so I had to go there, right? I had to go there.
You couldn't leave the tactical rocks out of it, huh?
Couldn't leave the tactical. Do we know who coined the term tactical rock? Because that they deserve
I don't know,
at least a footnote.
But it's probably Adam.
And importantly, I wanted to talk about, so in the past few years, we've had 3 new factions enter the game: Chaos Knights, Genestealer Cult, and Custodes. And how did those affect the meta historically? Like, were they significantly different than the other armies out there? Did they change up how you had to play? I would argue that Chaos Knights, when they first dropped, didn't change that much.
Yeah, because we did have knights that were so prevalent at the time. You already knew what knights were. The Chaos Knights aren't that different. But dude, Genestealer Cults, like, come on, when they dropped, that was a pretty big shift.
Yeah, that was a big shift because they played very differently. They introduced their blip mechanic, where basically the army wasn't visible when you deployed. You were like, there's some things over there, and then you start your movement phase, and they're like, okay, now I'm going to deploy my army, and you're like, okay. So they definitely turned.
They are huge, like gigantic change in the game.
Yeah,
when they dropped.
and they were dominating some top tables for a bit.
Yeah,
the muscle beach list was really just kind of, it was deep strike charge heavy, and it had a lot of modifiers to make that a successful thing, but it was a big deal. It definitely shook some things up. And then Custodes, I think, were the first true elite army that we had. We had some, Marine builds and some Grey Knight builds that felt elite. But when Custodes hit the table, that's when it really felt like, holy crap, this is what an elite armies is.
Yeah.
You're talking about a troop choice of 3 dudes, and you're like, that can't be that durable. And it's like, no, it can just sit on an objective forever if you don't have the right firepower.
Yeah, and man, each time one of these new armies dropped, it did the whole nother codex that people have to be familiar with, right? Which is a whole nother, like, I guess, bit of knowledge you got to kind of digest. So if another faction is added, is that a good thing? Because yes, it can shake up the meta and be fun, but is that like adding another layer of complexity to this game system that we've already got like 20, 30 different factions at this point?
I mean,
factions. Is it
too
much?
From a competitive standpoint, we don't need more factions. From a narrative standpoint, there's always the room for more. And they've introduced a lot of little factions, like the Gellerpox Infected. And Rogue Traders. They'll be introducing the Imperial Navy with this coming Kill Team box. So they definitely are introducing smaller narrative factions that aren't full armies. But these full army releases are definitely, from a competitive balance standpoint, you probably don't need them.
Making it too complicated. Tech Priest, I'm sure you can analyze this, the names that Seth just dropped, and then of course referencing the older, I guess, the Chaos Knights, Genestealer Cults, Custodes. None of these are, how do I say this gently, novel factions. These are all factions that are in the lore. They have a history. Nothing was just like kind of made up on the spot. But the Leagues of Voltan, they are squats, but they're kind of a new take. Like Genestealer Cults were Genestealer Cults. Like nothing changed. Custodes are Custodes. Chaos Knights were Chaos Knights. Do we think that we should add more factions, and which is, I guess, up for debate, but more importantly, if we're adding more factions, should they be something totally novel and new that we've never heard of before, or should we try to take something back from existing lore? What's more exciting for you?
So I think they have like factions that are coming in have been in lore in some places, and there's a whole bunch of places. Like I've seen there was factions created on like a paragraph blurb, right? So like they
I mean, the Necrons were like a blurb way back when.
Good point.
So I like that they're bringing those factions back. You kind of get a weird nostalgia kind of vibe to it, right? So I don't know. It'd be really hard to kind of create a faction out of thin air, right? Can you, Seth? Can you think of one that they created? I mean, I guess Primaris was, and they're not really.
No, that's a good point.
Right?
The Primaris were a new invention, right?
Yeah.
They're relatively completely
they were.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
I can't think of one they've invented out of thin air, but I can think of a lot that, like, we're saying, where it was just a small, tiny little bit of lore years and years and years ago, and they took that and they expounded on it. What I want to ask
Tau.
is,
Yeah,
from a
Tau.
game mechanic standpoint, how do you make something like Leagues of Voltan different?
Yeah, that's a good point. We can only have so many durable armies and fast-moving armies and so many horde armies and so many elite armies. What is that balance? I have no idea. I have heard well, I've heard some rumblings, and so I have okay, so when I mean I have no idea, that's a lie. I have an idea, but
This is our time.
but
Seth, this is our
yeah, right.
time to get all that information.
No,
And no one's,
uh,
listen, kicker, no one's here.
yeah,
It's just
no
me,
one's here, no
you,
one's here.
Seth. We're just chatting.
No, no, no,
I
no.
am legitimately interested to see how it's pulled off because theories are nice, but let's see how it actually plays in practice, right?
All
I
right.
mean,
He-
Seth,
Let,
is
let
there
me
an
ask Dickie a question.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
way,
go for it.
take Kicker off the hook
Wait,
here.
I'll
Thank
turn
you.
myself real quick. Wait.
Dickie, Leagues of Voltan, more or less elite than a standard Space Marine army in terms of profile?
Ooh.
More or less. Well, I mean, less elite, right? Theoretically. They're just minors. There's,
Okay, all right. So less elite.
yeah.
So how have they stayed alive lore-wise for all
Hiding.
this time?
They've been
Far away.
in mining ships. I don't know. Like,
Because
so
I
here's,
feel like they've got to make them more
yeah.
like those new models they've been showing off. I feel like they've got to make them more elite than Space Marines.
Seth, I'm gonna jump in based purely off of what has been posted on Warhammer community. So this is not me saying this. They've stated very clearly the weapons are more sophisticated than the the standard Imperial counterpart.
So
Yeah.
maybe more like Eldar, like maybe not necessarily durable, but because of their shenaniganry have been able to survive.
Yeah, probably
So
have good
here's
shooting and
something
maybe
that I was kind of going off of. Is 40k at the point where it's more aesthetic choices rather than army lore and other thing choices? Like, I want to paint this model over this model, and that's the choice I make rather than.
Oh, that's a
I
personal
think
thing,
that's
right?
always been the case because
Yeah.
you go talk to any group, any local store group, big group, and you ask them, hey, what army should I start? And they're like, pick something that you like the look of, pick something that you like the lore behind.
Mm.
Because it's gonna be timeless then. You're not gonna get burnt out of it, right?
Yeah. Well,
Like if you
people
got
like
it for
dwarves.
the rules can change,
And I mean, you got the nostalgia feel. Like, you got the nostalgia feel for squats, right? So you got that. And you got brand new sculpts, brand new models. Like, how, like, people fell in love with the sisters when they did this a
yeah,
couple
that's
years
true.
ago.
That's true.
So I think it could be just an aesthetic choice over model choice. I know that we're not playing chess where it's just pawns and rooks and things like that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if we can get to a point where it's an aesthetic choice over specific army choices. That being said, I'm a world leader player, and world leaders are coming out, so I'm gonna play them.
Very
But you're gonna play that, and then we're gonna both play leagues.
Yeah, go
leagues.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
I'll
right.
crush you
All
into
right.
a bloody
So
mist. Yeah.
I'm gonna now pivot the conversation into edition talk.
Okay.
So let's
Because
go.
there's been
memory lane.
lots of rumblings. Chat's already said it a few times tonight. 10th edition.
Yep.
In terms of new codexes, we know Demons is right on the edge of coming out.
Next week.
Like pre-orders are like this weekend.
Yeah.
We got Leagues of Voltan. We hear rumblings that the World Eaters are coming in October, and then Guards coming after that. We know kind of what's coming for us at this point.
Find it.
Yeah.
And then once
you can look at
Guards out,
history.
that's all the established factions updated.
Yeah, I mean, we do know that. Come on, like traditionally, Space Marines always get a little bit more love towards the end of well, they did in at least last edition, and Space Marines, if you look at them, they're looking pretty old. But like we do know historically, things get cycled through. So ninth edition's been happening for how many years now, Seth?
Well, Kicker, let's take a little trip back through time.
All right, let's
because
go.
I have all the editions.
Okay, you have the numbers here. Yeah, so let's
So
go through it.
and this is important because there is a pattern here.
All right.
Some folks in chat are already kind of jumping on it, but the pattern is once you start to break it down, we've got first edition coming out in 1987, and then second edition coming out in 1993. That was a 6-year difference.
And that was I believe you put in your notes. That was a huge change.
That was a major overhaul of the system at that point. And then you go 5 more years till you get third edition, which it was a huge overhaul from second edition, and they actually included index style rules in the main rulebook.
Cool, I didn't know that.
Yep. And then you go another 6 years, and you get fourth edition. This was
2004.
more. Yep, 2004. And this was more of a minor change compared to third, and it was backwards compatible to all the older codexes. And then 4 more years in 2008, we hit 5th edition, another major change, but still backwards compatible. They were trying to keep that backwards compatibility, keep that book library alive. 4 more years again, 2012, we hit 6th edition. And this is, again, another major overhaul, but still backwards compatible. Then just 2 years after that, which was a break in the cycle, we get 2014 in the summer, we get 7th edition.
Right.
And this was a minor change, kind of tweaking the rules, but still backwards compatible. And then you fast forward 3 more years to 2017, we got 8th edition. This was, everyone remembers, a huge overhaul.
Yeah.
We went back to indexes again.
The indexes were a big deal, dude. I don't know if you liked them or not, but that was changing. Everyone started from scratch. Everyone was
that was completely resetting everything.
Reset.
And then we went 3 more years in the summer of 2020. We got 9th edition, and this was kind of a comparatively a minor overhaul of the rule system, the core system, with backwards compatibility to those old codexes. Yeah. So the logic is about every 3 to 4 years for the last 4 editions, we have gotten a new edition in the summer. So with us kind of getting to the end of the codex cycle, to me, it would make more sense the GW is going to drop 10th edition in the next summer. So June 2023-ish. Because otherwise, they're going to have to do some sort of large campaign book system or something like that to kind of keep providing us new content for another year. If they were going to push it out to 2024. GW has
done a really good job of keeping content, right? Like there's very few times that it's stagnant. There's always something on the horizon.
Exactly. They always have something coming. So for them to say, hey, Guard comes out, sake of argument, let's say Guard comes out in December, and then there's no new edition and no new content until 2024, you're talking 18 months, just from a company standpoint. 18 months without a new product and to drive new sales is not a good idea. Like,
and when Seth means new product, he means new major product, right? Obviously, there can always be a random unit here or there, but talking about something major to keep it exciting. So,
So that's my bet. A few folks in chat have been saying the same thing, where they feel like it's every 3 years, so it should be this coming June. So if that's the case, Kicker, this LVO would be the last LVO of 9th edition.
It could be. I don't know. I'm not saying anything. It could be.
I'll ask a question, Kicker. You can answer it or not. Are we going to get a GW reveal at LVO?
Most likely we will be getting something from GW. Yeah. I mean, we've been speaking to them very closely. They're very excited for LVO 20.
Okay. What do they think of your beard?
I'm shaving this monstrosity off as soon as we get off.
If there is any GW representatives in chat, I need you to make comments on Kicker's beard in the next phone call.
I'm gonna get an email in the morning like, Kicker, what the hell? All right. So I want to throw this out to you guys. I mean, Tech Priest, Dickie, Seth, our wonderful audience, guys. I mean, are new editions scary? Are they exciting? Are they annoying? I mean, are you pumped for it? Because it's like a whole, I mean, I think each edition, and this is me being very just neutral. I've been playing this game for a long time. I think each edition gets better and better and better. Like it's only gotten better. I don't think that like 4th edition was better than 6th edition. I think literally 8th was good. I like 9th more than 8th, and I think we're only getting better.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Seth.
Tech Priest.
Oh, okay. I think for me, the codexes have been very slowed down, and I know that's COVID. I'm okay. Yeah. I get it. I really wish there was time to get all the codexes out to get a full-fledged 9th edition meta for a while, and I know we're gonna have that at some point, but I feel like we could have had it for a little longer. So I think I've had friends tell me that they're going to poke their head back into 40k when 10th edition comes out. So it's always kind of an exciting period of time, right? Like,
is that friend perhaps our lovely and fearless leader?
Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to say anything, but yeah. So yeah, I think, I don't know. I'm excited for change. I just hope that everyone has time in the sun, so that like time with their new codex, for instance.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, easy there, World Eater player that's going to be sad when his stuff gets sunsetted. I see the cup.
Yeah, right.
I see the cup.
Oh, what cup?
Seth,
I don't know what you're talking
Seth,
about.
what do you think, though, man? Are you generally excited for new overhauls or at least new additions? Or are you somebody that likes, to keep things the same, more consistent for longer periods of time?
I think. All right, I have two opinions.
Okay,
because
Okay.
I'm a complex man.
because you are Gork and Mort
Yeah.
incarnate.
I
Got it.
am.
Get your drink.
I like the shakeup that a new core set of rules brings.
Okay.
That always shifts, how we play the game, how we play missions, how we build armies. It's something new, and it's a new problem to solve. That being said, I don't like when they release editions that are backwards compatible.
You
Uh,
don't like when they release
because,
editions.
so
You
sake
like
of argument,
indexes.
if
You
if
like
they
indexes.
if they release 10th edition and 10th edition is formatted in such a manner that every book from 9th edition and in some cases 8th edition are backwards compatible, that makes it a very complex game right out of the start.
Yeah, that's fair.
And if I'm Tech Priest Dickie's unnamed friend who wants to come back into the edition, that's really complicated to get my head around.
Yeah.
It also makes it really hard when you're writing that 10th edition rule set to balance everything,
Very fair.
because you're trying to balance everything with pre-established rules already.
Yeah.
Now, the GW has, to their credit, done a good job of putting out a list of what supplements and what codexes are valid for competitive play moving forward. They did that, and they removed a lot of the old Psychic Awakening books, which was a good thing. But if you were a new player and didn't know to look for that, you would still be pretty confused. And some stores still have like old edition codexes on the shelf,
Yeah.
and you might buy the wrong codex, then you might show up somewhere else to play, and just that's a bad feeling. It feels bad, particularly if someone was just buying into this hobby. It's a pretty expensive hobby. So I personally think if they do 10th edition, I really, really want to see them do something about sunsetting all the old material, and making it an easier edition for folks to get into.
Everyone starts on the same playing field again, and it also allows, like you said, new people to quickly get into it. You got these indexes where you have all the army rules right here. It's very clear and simple.
Yep.
That's a very good point. I mean, I remember 8th edition grabbing indexes for basically everything. I didn't get the chaos one, but I got the other ones. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. I can see everything right here. And yes, it was simplified, but when you're starting a new edition, it's kind of nice to keep it simple for the beginning.
Yeah.
Cool, Seth. Do you want to jump into something really? Should we just call it touchy? I don't know.
Yeah, let's get into our competitive news. Everyone get your beverage. Get your beverage up.
Take a deep breath here, people.
Pour one out. Everyone, we're not sponsored by Mountain Dew. I just wanted everyone to
the see-through Mountain Dew.
Yes, not sponsored.
Not yet. If Mountain Dew,
pour one out for our beloved brother, Battle Scribe.
Yeah.
Moment of silence.
Wow.
Battle Scribe.
Does anyone else use that? Did anyone else use that every day? Like I think I use it every day.
I use it a lot.
So those of you that are not familiar with Battlescribe, it was a free app that you could use to build your list. Seth, what is going on with Battlescribe? Why are we pouring one?
So it's been announced that Battlescribe is being removed from the Apple Store because it has not been updated in 2 years. Apple's policy is if you don't update your app in 2 years, it's considered abandoned and they get rid of it. And the rumor is that the Google Play Store is going to be doing the same thing soon. Which means if you have the app on your phone, don't delete it, or you'll lose it forever.
Yeah.
And that kind of it proposes a number of interesting challenges for us right now. Excuse me. The rumor is the reason it hasn't been updated is sometime, perhaps 2 years ago, the creator of Battlescribe may have had contact with GW's legal team and been told to stop. So that individual or individuals, I don't know. If I were in their shoes and GW's legal team told me to stop, I would probably stop.
And just for clarity's sake, that's just a rumor.
That is a rumor. We have nothing confirmed there. Okay. But that leaves us kind of in a weird spot because generally speaking, most events have you submit your list from Battlescribe into Best Coast pairings.
Yeah, and then the app, checks to see if your list is correct based off the format submitted via BCP.
And then a lot of the data mining folks, like the guys over at StatCheck, mine based on that format.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that might not become as available. So that raises the question of what are events going to do in terms of list submission and list validation. You can use the GW list builder in their app to export a format that you can upload to BCP, but it's not machine readable like the format from Battlescribe was. So it's probably not going to auto validate like Battlescribe lists did in BCP.
So I did use the GW app for Cruisehammer to test it out, right? And that's how I submitted my list. My list was accurate. There was no flaws. There was no errors. GW is working constantly to update their app. So I know that, yes, there's no hiding the fact that there were some serious flaws upon initial release, and there's always a slow update. But at least it worked for me for Cruisehammer with no flaws. Seth, you do have a good point, though. You want to be able to mine that data. I am not a technical programmer kind of guy. How quickly capable is it? Is it possible for the stat check guys to figure out a way to mine that data from
I don't know. That's Curie's end of the game.
Okay.
I can reach out to him, but I do know that it just kind of does pose a challenge for them. GW's list building app, maybe this is not its final form. Maybe they will be working on
maybe they have a new app
on future projects. We don't know. But right now it seems that, going forward, that might be the only universally accessible app for list writing.
Because for Frontline game events, we're not going to accept a handwritten, postcard or a note or something with, it's yeah, sorry.
I mean, you could theoretically type a list out in a Word document and submit it, but I don't know. I'd have to mess around with that and see how that works with the validation tools in BCP. And frankly, sake of argument, LVO's what? 6 months away?
Oh God,
5 months away. Let's say, sake of argument, 5 months away. 80% of the lists are Word documents that get submitted. That is a logistical nightmare for an event that size. Or when's the LGT? Isn't the LGT in a couple months?
No, that's in the fall.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, if they're 1,000-person singles event, like, LVO is going to be bigger than that. Probably what, 12,
it will be a mess. So we do need to have some sort of automated way of making sure lists are submitted.
Yeah. So that's the thing to me that is kind of the big question mark, because we've kind of taken that technology end of things for granted for most of 8th and 9th edition. We're like, yeah, this works, it's fine, whatever. We didn't think about it, and now it's like, oh, we don't have that tool. You and I go, Kicker, if we want to go to an 8-person RTT this weekend, that's not a big deal to check 8 lists, but to check 1,000 lists manually.
And dude, it doesn't make a difference whether we're going to an 8-man as players going to an 8-man or going to 1,000-man. Like, we're so used to putting our list into software and having it populate that way. Like, I can't think of the last time I wrote a list by hand, right, without using some sort of software app or something. So
it feels like I'm going to the dark ages.
Taking another little step back, about a couple weeks ago, WTC has their own list format. They have a specific format that, in terms of listing out like all your different secondary values that you award and things like that. So those lists were at some level hand edited, and that is a large event, but there were still some list errors that got through, and their system, I believe, and if the WCDC folks are in chat and they want to yell at me, please go right ahead. But I believe with the way they validated lists is they said, okay, I'm the American team, Kicker is the Icelandic team. Okay. And you're responsible for checking all of my team's lists, and I'm responsible for checking all of your team's lists.
Okay.
So they pass the work off to their players in a large event like that. But
it actually makes sense.
And it was a relatively efficient system. Some things still got through, but maybe that's something, if we're in a bind, that we have to look at doing for some of these large events, to say, hey, 20, 30 guys volunteer to check lists, or something like that. Kicker will buy you a tea.
Yeah. No, seriously, maybe we have an official, LVO list checker tea, some fancy T-shirt or headband or something.
I meant like a beverage.
Yeah. Oh, a tea, like a beverage. I was thinking like a really cool shirt, and like you could play the entire tournament in your official.
LVO what was it? Does Nova still require paper lists?
Really? Oh my gosh!
I can remember in 8th edition, Nova required that you bring, like, if there was 8 rounds, 9 copies of a paper list. And at the day of, they stamped your lists to be like, these are your official lists. Oh, wow. And you just handed them to, like, there was just a big old line of people waiting for you to stamp, like, so they couldn't have been checking that hard, right?
No.
That was like 8th edition. I remember that.
Jeez. Some guy named John in the chat is really smart and also funny, and he also said that just put them in a Twitch stream and we'll get all the errors real quick.
All the comments will find all the
You're
errors.
not wrong.
That's
I love it.
we'll do a pre-LVO weekend where we just stream Dickie,
Nothing but
Kicker, and I going through all the lists.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, we have the tools to make this happen. I don't think if people
I don't want
want
to.
to be part of that. Though.
Scotty D says list checkers are 100% the norm in Australian events for large events.
Oh,
Really?
So the
interesting.
norm there is that they have a crew checking lists.
Do they get a free shirt? What do you do to?
Yeah, Scotty,
incentivize-
what's the incentive there? Is it like
Well, they're
is
the
it like
world
community
champions. They can do
service?
whatever they want to do.
That's true.
Yeah.
But is it like, community service where, like a lot of people who judge events or TO events feel like, okay, I've been in the scene long enough. I've played in a bunch of events. Now is my chance to give back.
Oh,
So
not that
is that-
I thought you meant community service. Like you've gotten 2 yellow cards. You have to do.
Yeah.
this
Oh
check.
God.
Oh, that would be amazing. Wow.
No, I meant it more like, yeah, like
Kicker's idea
I'm
is so
doing this as a
good.
service to my
That's a
community.
great kick.
Scotty says generally the TO team doing it.
Wow, cool. Thank
No.
you, Scotty D. And it seems like Australia's got a pretty good system then. Well, man, those are options to consider. Those are all options to consider. Seth, I'm excited to see what we come up with because this is hopefully we'll see where the app is. We'll see where things are in a few months. We still have
but I mean,
time.
something we got to be thinking about as a community because not just FLG events, but you're running a 100-person major in a month. You probably need to be thinking about how am I going to go through all those? All right. Well, I think that's all we have for tonight, Kicker. Any final thoughts?
No, Seth, I'm happy to have you. I haven't seen you in a while, man. It's good to see you again.
Hopefully our travels are done for a bit and we can just hang out and
We
chill.
can just stay at home for a little bit.
Yeah.
Guys in chat, thank you again for joining us. Seth, take us out.
Well, we thank you so much for joining us. We really hope you enjoyed this episode of Signals from the Frontline. Have a great week, and we will see you next Wednesday.
Good night.